My name is Amy Benanti. I'm 32 years old, and I never thought I'd be the kind of person who experiences visions. I work as a nurse at Memorial Hospital, where every day I face the tangible, the measurable. I monitor blood pressure readings, distribute medications, check IV lines, and offer words of comfort to the sick and afraid. It's a job rooted in science, in routine, a world of facts and schedules. I've always believed in God. I went to church with my family growing up and kept attending into adulthood. I said my prayers at night and thanked him quietly when life went well. But I never expected him to speak to me. Not directly, not like this. It started with a warmth, subtle at first, like the gentle brush of sunlight through a window on a winter morning. Then it deepened, blooming in my chest, flowing down my arms and legs, until every inch of me felt soaked in a golden presence. It wasn't just a feeling. It was like I had stepped into the heartbeat of something holy. When I opened my eyes, my bedroom was gone. The walls, the bed, the ceiling fan, everything had vanished. I stood in a vast, boundless space that pulsed with light. Not static light, but something alive. It shimmered and swirled around me in hues I couldn't name, colors I had never seen before. And there, standing before me, was a figure so luminous, so radiant, that I instinctively shielded my eyes. But I knew who he was. I didn't need a name tag or an introduction. My spirit recognized him before my mind could even form the thought. My knees gave way, trembling beneath me. I would have fallen flat if he hadn't reached out and steadied me with a hand on my shoulder. His touch wasn't just firm, it was deeply reassuring. It felt like being known completely and still being safe. "Amy," he said. And hearing my name in his voice was like hearing it for the very first time. It sounded like a song composed just for me. A name I had forgotten was sacred. "I have something to show you." His voice was unlike anything I've heard, layered like a symphony of thunder and whisper. It resonated in my chest more than my ears. It held power, yet it carried gentleness so tender that it brought tears to my eyes. I was speechless. All I could do was tremble. "Don't be afraid," he said again, with a softness that pierced through every wall I'd ever built around my heart. And instantly, as if commanded, fear fled. "I have chosen you for a purpose. What I show you today, you must share with others. Many are blind to what exists just beyond their sight." He lifted his hand, and the space shifted. It didn't feel like movement, but suddenly, we were seeing from a higher place. Below us, countless people moved through cities, towns, homes, hospitals, offices. Their lives were in full motion. But something was different, something that went far beyond what I had ever perceived. Around some of them glowed a faint, steady light. Around others, there was a gray mist. Some moved freely, while others trudged as though dragging chains. I leaned closer, noticing the dark, slithering shadows near many people. They clung to them, whispered into their ears, tangled around their feet. I watched in horror as those shadows shaped decisions, created confusion, and sowed fear. "This," Jesus explained, "is the world as it truly is. The spiritual and physical coexisting. The shadows you see are forces of destruction, whispering doubt, planting despair, leading my children away from truth." Then he pointed to a modest little home tucked between buildings. Inside, a woman knelt beside her bed. Her lips moved in prayer. Though I couldn't hear her words, I saw golden streams begin to flow from her mouth, forming strands of light that swirled around her like ribbons in the wind. "She is praying Psalm 91, Jesus said, with a tender smile. "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." As she spoke, the golden light thickened and brightened. It expanded into a dome around her and her home. Shadow creatures that had gathered near hissed, covering their faces before fleeing into the distance, unable to withstand the growing radiance. "I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." The words took shape, weaving a canopy of shimmering protection over her roof. Inside this divine shelter, everything appeared more vivid, more anchored in truth. "Surely He will save you from the fowler's set snare and from the deadly pestilence." As the prayer continued, luminous beings appeared. Angels, clothed in brilliance, with swords that glowed like the morning sun. They took their places around her home like sentinels, unwavering and fierce. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. The woman's face softened. Though tears still streaked her cheeks, her eyes radiated serenity. A peace that could not be shaken settled over her like a warm blanket on a stormy night. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Jesus turned to me. His eyes, full of power and empathy, held mine. This is the strength of my words spoken in belief. Psalm 91 is not just ink on a page, it sups a spiritual shield, a fortress in the unseen world. When my children declare these words in faith, they activate something far greater than they realize. With a wave of his hand, we witnessed dozens of similar scenes: elderly men in wheelchairs, young children reciting the psalm before sleep, busy mothers murmuring it during laundry, soldiers whispering it in battle zones. In every instance, the results were the same: light surging, shadows fleeing, angels standing guard. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. Jesus stepped forward, his presence overwhelming and beautiful. My word holds authority beyond your comprehension. It shapes the realms you cannot see. And Psalm 91, this psalm declares unshakable truths. Truths the enemy cannot endure. He paused. His voice softened again, now echoing like a final promise carved in eternity. That I am refuge, that I am fortress, that I am protector, that my faithfulness is a shield, that no evil can touch those who dwell in my shadow. I watched, mesmerized, as a businessman recited the psalm while driving to work. His lips moved with familiarity, not out of ritual, but out of trust. The words flowed like a gentle stream from his mouth, and I saw them take form, an invisible but powerful bubble of light surrounding his car. What amazed me most was not just the beauty of it, but what it did. Accidents, roadblocks, and delays that would have crossed his path shifted aside, diverted by something unseen. Not because he was more worthy than others, Jesus explained, but because his heart was aligned with faith. His obedience had activated specific promises written long ago but still alive today. If you say, "So the Lord is my refuge," set, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. Then I saw a woman tiptoeing into her children's bedroom. The air was still, the night silent. She whispered Psalm 91 over each child, pressing her hand gently on their heads as she spoke. And suddenly the words left her lips and became a soft, golden fabric, glowing, shimmering, warm. It draped itself like a blanket over the sleeping children. I watched as shadowy fingers tried to creep in through the window but stopped short, unable to penetrate the barrier. Nightmares, illness, anxiety, they simply could not pass through the light. Elsewhere, a student closed her eyes before an exam, her heart pounding with fear. She whispered the psalm just once. Like a gentle mist, calm descended. Her thoughts, once scattered, aligned like puzzle pieces snapping into place. An elderly man, lying alone in a hospital bed, repeated the words with trembling lips. I could barely hear him, yet in the spiritual realm his whisper thundered like a song. Angels stood by his side. Pain did not leave his body, but something greater came. Peace, steady and warm like sunlight through a window. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Jesus turned to me, his expression both urgent and filled with compassion. Do you see now, Amy? His voice echoed softly as if resonating in the very atmosphere. This isn't set a formula. This isn't set about magic words. This is faith. When my people declare truth, they align themselves with the divine. Their words carry weight, not because they are perfect, but because they believe. I nodded slowly, my chest tightening with both awe and responsibility. There is a war going on that many do not even sense, he continued. My children walk through daily spiritual minefields. Darkness waits in silence to ambush, confuse, and destroy, but they are not without weapons. My word is not just ink on pages. It sits living, it breathes, it shields, it strikes back. He showed me more. I saw a woman praying Psalm 91 as she prepared for work. As she walked through her day, The psalm clung to her like a garment. Every word formed an unseen structure around her, stronger than steel, lighter than air. I watched traps being laid by the enemy, discouragement, betrayal, despair. Yet as she moved forward, she sensed them, avoided them. Her spiritual vision, awakened by the word, saw what others could not. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. This doesn't mean, Jesus added gently, that trials won't come. In fact, they often do. But what matters is not the absence of storms, it's the presence of shelter. Psalm 91 doesn't set to raise trouble. It redefines the way you walk through it, with me, covered, never alone. I saw families navigating grief, people battling addiction, students buried under anxiety, all praying the psalm faithfully. And though their circumstances didn't vanish, their hearts were not crushed. They walked with an inner fire that flickered, but never died out. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Jesus then showed me what authority looked like in the spirit realm. I saw believers who knew the psalm well walking boldly, the words lighting their path like torches. Dark, grotesque figures leapt away at their approach. These weren't warriors in the traditional sense, they were ordinary people, but they moved with confidence. The authority wasn't in their voice, it was in their position in me, he reminded. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. Jesus looked at me then, his face illuminated by something more than light. This, he said with deep intensity, is what unlocks it all. Love, not routine, not superstition, not memorization. Those who love me, who truly know me, who speak my name with reverence, they carry my promises as reality, not as wishful thinking. I watched people in desperate situations cry out to God. I saw no lightning, no thunder, but heaven bent toward them, close, attentive. They weren't always delivered instantly, but they were never ignored, never forsaken. He will call on me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. The psalm wasn't a magic wand. It was a bridge, a direct connection between human frailty and divine strength, a spiritual alignment. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Jesus spoke again, this time slower, as if every word needed space to sink deep. These final promises, satisfaction, salvation, they aren't just about earthly length of years. They're about fullness, about living with intention, knowing that each breath has purpose. When you dwell in my shelter, even a short life can echo for eternity. He turned to me fully now. His presence, though steady, suddenly felt deeply personal. Amy, he said gently, this is why I showed you all of this. Tell them, tell the ones who will listen. Psalm 91, he reminded me, is more than beautiful writing. It's a blueprint for daily spiritual victory. Each morning, when spoken with belief, it builds something real, an invisible but mighty wall of truth. He placed his hands firmly on my shoulders. Many of my children suffer needlessly, not because I am far, but because they do not know what I have given them. Help them see. Let your life be the message. Live it. I swallowed hard. But will anyone take me seriously? I asked, barely above a whisper. I'm not a speaker. I'm not a pastor. I'm just... His smile returned brighter than before. And that is exactly why you were chosen. The power of my word shines brightest in the lives that seem the most ordinary. They will see your peace, your strength, and they will wonder, that sips your door. Begin with your circle, and let me do the rest. The vision slowly dimmed, though I could still feel the warmth of his hands. His voice lingered like a melody. Remember this, Amy. The power is not in the recitation, it's in the faith. Teach them to pray with understanding, to speak not just with lips, but with hearts that trust. This isn't superstition. This is supernatural truth. I will, I promised, meaning it with every fiber of my being. I blinked and I was back in my bedroom, still on my knees beside my bed. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, casting golden stripes across the floor. My alarm clock blinked insistently, showing I had been praying for nearly an hour, though to me it felt like mere minutes had passed. My cheeks were damp with tears I didn't remember shedding. My hands trembled slightly, still resting in my lap, palms open. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've been doing exactly what Jesus asked. Each morning before my feet touch the floor, I pray Psalm 91, not as a habit but as a declaration, not as a ritual but as an act of faith. The words aren't just ancient poetry to me anymore. They're living fire, a fortress, a cloak I wear before stepping into a chaotic world. And I've been sharing it with everyone who will listen. It began with my closest friend, Veronica. She had battled anxiety attacks for years, crushing, breath-stealing moments that seemed to come out of nowhere. She had tried therapy, medication, spiritual counseling. Nothing had truly helped. When I told her about my vision, she was cautious but open. "I've tried everything else, Amy," she said with tired eyes. "One more thing, one set hurt. What do I have to lose?" 1 week later, she called me, her voice choked with emotion. "Amy, I don't just even know how to explain it," she said, pausing between sobs. "But it sets like there's space now between me and the fear. Like something stepped in front of it. I still feel anxious sometimes, but it doesn't swallow me anymore. I can breathe again. I can think." Then there was my brother Eric. His battle had been with addiction. Long, grueling years of ups and downs, in and out of recovery centers, in and out of hope. His faith had gone dormant, buried under guilt and frustration. When I mentioned Psalm 91, he scoffed. "Seriously? That sip's what you sip got for me? A Bible verse?" "Yes," I replied gently. "But it sip's not just a verse, it sip's a lifeline. Try it, just for a week." 2 weeks passed before he reached out again. This time his voice was lower. He didn't sound like someone mocking anymore. "I'm not saying I said I'm a changed man," he said, "but I've been praying that psalm every morning. And yesterday I walked past my old spot, the corner where my dealer hangs out, and I didn't even flinch. No craving, no temptation, nothing. It was like something invisible stood between us." Stories began spreading quietly at first, through my church, through coworkers, neighbors. Not everyone believed. Some nodded politely and changed the subject. A few offered skeptical smiles and reminded me that emotions could be deceptive. But those who tried it, who dared to believe and prayed the psalm with sincere hearts each morning, they came back with testimonies. A mother whose 5-year-old son stopped having the same recurring nightmare that had haunted him since preschool. A business owner who landed a last-minute contract that rescued her company from financial collapse. A teenage girl who stood up to school bullies for the first time in years. A woman who walked into her oncologist's office bracing for bad news and left in stunned silence after hearing the word clear. Not every account was dramatic. Sometimes it was a simple shift, a quiet mind, restful sleep, a sudden insight at just the right time, narrowly missing a car accident, a delayed flight that avoided disaster. Each story confirmed what I already knew. So I started a small group, just 5 of us at first, sitting on old couches in my living room with cups of tea and open Bibles. Now some weeks there are 15 of us. Teachers, nurses, retirees, single moms. We gather to pray, to reflect, to remind each other why we started. We share breakthroughs and frustrations alike. We hold each other accountable to speak the psalm, not just out of habit, but with belief. Last week, something happened that shook me to my core and confirmed everything. I had just finished a night shift at the hospital. The parking lot was dimly lit, quiet, except for the distant hum of traffic. It was 2 a.m., and I was alone, walking to my car. As I reached for my keys, a strange tingling ran down my spine. I looked up and saw 2 men stepping out from between parked vehicles. Their movements were calculated. Their hands were hidden. My instincts screamed danger. Fear surged for a split second, but then peace rose to meet it. I remembered the psalm I'd spoken earlier that morning, not recited, declared, every word spoken with intentional faith. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. The words rang in my spirit like a bell. The men approached, but then something changed. They stopped. One of them squinted behind me, his expression shifting from confidence to alarm. He nudged the other. They turned and walked away quickly, then broke into a run. I stood frozen for a moment before finally unlocking my car and climbing in, locking the doors. Only then did it hit me. They hadn't seen me, not just me, they had seen something behind me, something I could not see, but they clearly could. I believe it was the angels Jesus showed me in my vision. I don't share this story for attention or applause. I share it because I was told to, because there are people suffering who don't know what's available to them. If you're listening to this, please understand this protection, this peace, it isn't reserved for a chosen few. It's not about me, it's about Him. Psalm 91 isn't superstition. It isn't religious jargon. It's relationship. It's trust. It's stepping into the shelter of the Almighty and refusing to step out. Try it for 30 days. Pray Psalm 91 each morning, out loud, with intention, with faith. Reflect, journal if you'd like. Note what changes, what shifts. Notice the peace, the protection, the strength. And when you're ready, share your story, because someone needs to hear it. In a world saturated with fear and uncertainty, we need reminders that we are not defenseless, that there is a fortress, that God still keeps His word. Psalm 91 is not a formula. It is faith in action. It's a covering, a shield, a divine contract sealed with love. God wants to be your refuge. He sits waiting. All you have to do is say yes. The spiritual realm is listening, and so is He. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Thank you for listening to this testimony. If it has stirred something in your heart, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs encouragement. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to become part of this community.